Hi. As an advocate for environmental issues, you would be aware that global warming will be the greatest threat facing humanity in the coming century. In light of this, is not the responsible position that nuclear energy should make up a greater proportion of the world's electricity production as we transition from fossil fuels? As Australia has some of the largest uranium deposits in the world, is it not our moral obligation to export more uranium in order to make alternatives to fossil fuels more viable?
Moral obligation. You got two claps, and you've got two claps. And why don't you ask Germany if uranium mining is the way forward? Like, why don't you ask the companies that are like investing so much money in renewable energy? That's the way forward. You know, the usage of minerals and materials and natural resources that don't have the capacity to destroy whole regions in the process of excavating them, or whole countries in the process of bombing them. Do you know what I mean? Or look at what happened in Japan. I mean, you know, there was grieving that took place in the Mardu community after the nuclear splitting in Japan, because they felt responsible for that material as stewards of their land, as that material was taken from their land. And they felt like a burden, an existential burden, you know, a spiritual burden, that they were somehow connected to that catastrophe, you know. But
Antony,
no,
I'm going to interrupt you there, because at least on my left here, I've got a couple of people sort of urging that they want to get involved in the conversation. Linda, you first, but we have to keep it brief because we've got a few other questions to go through.
This one's actually really quick. I've only been in the country for a few days, you understand, and I'm an American, so I know very little about the rest of the world. But my understanding is you've got a huge chunk of land that nobody lives on, and if you want to talk about moral responsibility as far as energy production, I would think that you would have a moral responsibility to start with wind turbines, which I know are frightening to Australians.
Our Prime Minister doesn't like them.
Yeah.
They're ugly.
Yeah.
As opposed to coal mines, which are very pretty.
Right, but if you start... I think that if you start with wind and solar, and then you look at what else you need to do after that, that would be your moral obligation. You don't start with the most potentially dangerous and then move on to the most innocuous.
Okay,
right?
I'm going to quickly go to Grahame, because you were doing quite a good impersonation of steam power there. It was coming out of your ears.
Oh, God. Look, you know, not everyone wants a bloody big windmill in their backyard. Look, nuclear power is clean.
we'd be happy to dig.
Energy.
We'd be happy to dig a uranium mine in your garden.
There's one. Yeah. Well, that's not the point.
Yes, it is the point.
Look, if I was like these
You said
people,
no one
and my
wants a
family
windmill in
my
their
family
back
was going
garden.
to share the spoils, yes. But we're talking about energy. And one of the problems with a third of the world with poverty is they don't have electricity. And here we are, we have coal and we have uranium that can provide sources for those people. And you're talking about poverty, that's the answer.
And we have a planet where 50% of the world's species will be extinct in the next 70 years. And if we don't change our track, we're all doomed. You're doomed, and I'm doomed, and your children are doomed. So, I mean, you're deluded. You're utterly deluded. And really, this is just about you, like, padding your pockets. This is just about you padding your pockets, or your cronies padding their pockets. You know, but where are you all going to be with all that money and nothing left to eat, nothing left to drink, and nowhere to go? You think you're going to fuck off to a paradise elsewhere? Do you know what I mean? You're going to ascend to heaven? Do you know what I mean? What are you thinking? You've got to dream forward. You've got to wake up.
But Anthony, look, I'm very reluctant to argue with you. But you'll go home tonight and flick on the light and take a cold beer out of the fridge, maybe. In India alone, as we speak, there are 300 million people without energy, without power to their homes. Look,
and is
we
that,
will
so
agree on many things.
You're doing charity work? Is that what this is all about?
We will agree on many
Your
things.
companies are doing charity work.
You are not going to turn on all those lights with windmills. It'll be an important part of the mix.
So then you're willing to forfeit your profits from the sale of coal and uranium?
Okay.
Because you're doing such good charity work for the poor.
I think